What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the channel once again. JB Wins, Dogon SS here to talk about a couple of interesting topics on the channel for this week. First, we're going to get into Colin Kaepernick. And then after that, we are going to talk about something that's pretty entertaining, but I'll just tease it and leave it there. So we've talked about Kaepernick on this channel. A couple times in the past, a few times in the past, going all the way back to 2017, when his whole, I guess his persona, I guess you can call it, with respect to him kneeling, and now he's being perceived as a social justice advocate, or or a political activist rather. But he was also a professional football player who, at the time that he started all this, didn't know that he would be essentially sacrificing his career. And now in retrospect, years later, he's still trying to be an active player again. He used to play for the San Francisco 49ers, and now he's been out of the NFL since 2018 or 2017 or something like that. And he's still trying to play, and he still contends that he can be a starter in the NFL. So he made an appearance recently on the I Am Athlete podcast. I'll include a link to the YouTube channel for the I Am Athlete podcast in the description of this video so that you can click on that and check it out for yourself. But they do a good job over there. I think it's Brandon Marshall, Chad Ochocinco Johnson, and Adam Pac-Man Jones. I think those are the guys who are on that particular podcast, and they bring guests on week to week and all of that kind of stuff. So Kaepernick was on the I Am Athlete podcast, and he was talking about being in the NFL again, and then he also spoke about hypocrisies in the NFL with respect to social justice and racial equality and all of that good stuff. So I'm just going to read an excerpt from what Kaepernick had to say on I Am Athlete podcast. This excerpt is from an article that was written in response to not necessarily a response, but just sort of talking about Kaepernick's appearance on the I Am Athlete podcast. And this is from Yahoo Sports. This is an article from Yahoo Sports. So it says, it's been years since Colin Kaepernick sat down for an on-the-record interview about the NFL. It was something of a coup for the I Am Athlete show to get him recently after Kaepernick was in the Miami area for a workout. He sat down with hosts Chad Ochocinco Johnson, Adam Pac-Man Jones, and Brandon Marshall for a brief talk that packed quite a bit of a punch, especially when it comes to Kaepernick disputing many of the lies that have been spread about him. So I'll just go all the way down to the end. So it's he said, quote, "I know I have to find my way back in, so if I have to come in as a backup, that's fine," Kaepernick said. "But that's not where I'm staying. And when I prove that I'm a starter, I want to step onto that field as such." The 34-year-old also did a bit of role play with Marshall in the role of an NFL general manager, raising some of the so-called reasons a team has yet to sign Kaepernick. "Let me come in and compete," Kaepernick said. "Let me come in, compete, show you what I can do." And, he goes on to talk about the NFL. He says, "You have end racism in the back of your end zones. You got Black Lives Matter on your helmet. Everything I said should be in alignment with what you're saying publicly." He shot back, with Johnson murmuring in support like grandmama on Sunday when the preacher is on a roll. "It's a $16 billion business. When I first took a knee, my jersey went to number one. When I did the deal with Nike, their value increased by $6 billion. Billion with a B. So if you're talking about the business side, it makes sense. If you're talking about the playing side, let me compete. You can evaluate me from there." And if you want to read the rest of that, like I said, I will include a link to the description of that article. I will include a link to that article in the description box of this particular video. So those were Kaepernick's remarks. So we have two different fronts in which to kind of dissect this, right? We have the football aspect of it, and then we have the rest of it. The NFL angle, the social justice angle, the business side, the business angle. First, let me address the football part real quick. Um, he's 34 years old. So most starting quarterbacks in the NFL are well below the age of 34 years old. Now, he might have been working out for the last 5 or 6 years, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Throwing to guys who are not NFL receivers, not throwing against NFL defenses. He's just been doing whatever it is that he's been doing. In his mind, he thinks that prepares him to be a starter at age 34 in the NFL. I think that he's fooling himself. And I think that what he does, and he does this smartly, is he insists that he can be a starter in the NFL because he knows that as long as he continues to not be an active player on a roster, he will be able to benefit from the blackball card. And he knows that he will have a lot of people in his corner saying the reason that he's not playing isn't because he is 34 and from a statistical standpoint aged out of the chance to be a starter, but because he's been actively blackballed by the NFL. The fact of the matter is, at age 34, you have a very slim chance, Colin Kaepernick, of being a starter. If you couple that with the fact that you have not been actively working out against NFL receivers or defenses or scheming against NFL defensive coordinators, all of that good stuff. You haven't been doing any of this. You've just been going to football. You've been going to high school fields and throwing against cones and dudes who wish that they was NFL receivers. And you make public appearances for the Michigan Wolverines, talking about how you need to stick up for yourself and stand on your own too and stick to your guns. And, you know, you got the backing of Jim Harbaugh because he was your NFL coach when you played for the 49ers. All these things work in your favor from a publicity and a public relations standpoint. But in terms of the practicality of being on an NFL roster, last time I checked, Justin Herbert was, 22, 23? Patrick Mahomes is 26, 27. Lamar Jackson's 24. Josh Allen is 25. I'm spitballing here, but you get my point. These guys are young. They're not long in the tooth. They're not even 30. The aberrations are Tom Brady, who is ageless, and Aaron Rodgers, who's 37. Two guys who could quite possibly go down as top 5 greatest NFL quarterbacks of all time. Those are anomalies. Those are exceptions to the rule. That's not the rule itself. You're 34, Kaepernick. So at best, it would behoove you, in my opinion, to talk about how you're willing to come in and compete for a backup job in the league, just based upon the practicality of the league itself. 34-year-old quarterbacks are not starting with regularity. And, you know, I don't care how preserved your body is because you haven't been taking hits on an NFL field for, you know, these past few years. The fact of the matter remains that at age 34, there aren't a whole lot of guys with regularity starting in the league. And even if you are starting, how many of those opportunities are optimal? You're going to be playing against these young guns and these guys who are playing on stacked rosters with the type of experience, real world and on the field, that you haven't been able to receive because you've been doing what you've been doing as an activist for the last 7 years, while saying that you've been continuously working out. So practically speaking, and I'm not trying to bash the guy or disparage him as a player, I don't really see it. And to be honest with you, when he has success in the league, and this is just me being a follower of the sport and speaking from a football perspective, personally, and this is just my personal opinion, so I'm speaking for myself, I'm not speaking for others, but the success that he had as a player was largely a result of the infrastructure that he was in San Francisco playing with Harbaugh, when he was able to run all over the place and put pressure on the defense as a scrambler and as a runner and run other guys open for big plays. The history of the NFL suggests that that is not sustainable long term and that you need to be able to dissect defenses and throw from the pocket with accuracy. He was never someone I saw doing that at a very high level. So unless he has been able to reinvent himself as a player, quite frankly, I just don't see it. But that's my opinion. On top of the fact that you're 34, I really don't see it at that point. But now let me briefly touch on the social justice aspect of it, because that's his greatest ally, right? The longer he is not playing, the longer he is able to be perceived as somebody who sacrificed himself at the altar of social justice for the greater good. And the longer he is able to perpetuate the notion that the NFL is actively keeping him from playing. Look, man, if you want to believe that Colin Kaepernick was blackballed, you're going to have to at some point resign to the notion that if he was blackballed indirectly, not directly. When a person is directly blackballed, it entails literal collusion. Now, if you want to believe that all 32 owners got on the phone and collectively got on a conference call or a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting and said, hey guys, we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. We don't want any of y'all, none of us is to sign Kaepernick. If you believe that happened, then go ahead and believe that the NFL actively blackballed Colin Kaepernick. I do not believe that happened. However, I do believe that in a roundabout way, he may have been indirectly blackballed, as in these guys surveyed the landscape of the NFL and recognized him as toxic. And no business person who is for profit is going to take on the risk of toxicity because they don't want that to compromise the viability of the business. That's not just an NFL thing. That is a business thing. Whether we're talking Wall Street, corporate America, the tech industry, the real estate market, you can talk about any industry, engineering, architecture. I don't give a damn what the industry is. People who are responsible for the bottom line of that business, for the bottom line of that industry, for the bottom line of that business, are not, under most circumstances, going to take on the risk of bringing in toxicity because they recognize that that toxicity can compromise that business's opportunity to profit in the way that they want to, in the way that they want the business to profit. So when you recognize that toxicity, a natural reaction is to avoid it. And so if the owners indirectly blackballed Colin Kaepernick, it is because of that, not because they were being directly racist towards him, but because they were saying, we don't want to take on the risk of toxicity because we don't want to compromise our bottom line. Now, you can speak towards the fan base of the NFL, and we can have a deeper existential discussion as to why it is that bringing Colin Kaepernick into a franchise would be perceived as toxic. But that is a separate conversation from getting into the meat. That's a separate conversation to me from the very simple analyzation of, I'm a business owner. I care about my business making money. I want to stay away from something that is toxic because something that is toxic can compromise my bottom line. And at the end of the day, as a shepherd of my business, I care about the bottom line. So, you can play Connect Four all day and you can try to connect these dots and make it seem like there was something overt and something direct taking place. I tend to stay away from that and just look at the facts. And those to me are the facts of the matter. So, Kaepernick can do all that he wants. He can go on all the podcasts that he wants. He can go on I Am Athlete all day long. And he can continue to benefit from the media narrative that he is being decisively excluded from this club. But the fact of the matter is he put himself in a position unknowingly, in my opinion, and he's just going to have to reap what he sows. Fair or unfair, right or wrong, it is what it is. And at 34, and based on what I'm seeing with the way that this league is moving, he has how should I say, slim chance in hell of ever being a starter again, let alone being a backup. And those were my initial thoughts on, what was, the story that was conjured up from his appearance on that podcast this week.
I think for me, just with him, I'm just me personally, I'm just tired of him. Just not of him as a guy, but I'm over the media stuff with him and the constant workouts. It's every other summer now,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
him throwing, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, I thought initially the stance was against the NFL. I thought after things got weird, but then I thought it was some type of a protest against the NFL. I thought that's what he was doing, but then all of this, then he's trying to get back in, um, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And so the collusion aspect of it, yeah, I don't think there was a conference call. I don't think they do that. But it is a corporate position. If you play quarterback in the NFL, you do have a corporate position,
yeah,
and so there's only what 30 of them, or 29 or 31 of them. So there's those positions are limited,
yeah,
and so when you are the face of a franchise, and you're behaving like how he was behaving, which is apparently not the way you should be behaving in the NFL. Well, then at that point, yeah, it is bad for marketing. It is bad for business, and I don't want that in my office. That's what those people were saying. So, yeah, it's like he kind of blackballed himself. It's kind of like what Flores low key doing to himself with all of this stuff. And it's like, hey, bro, like it's not that deep, bro. Like you'll get another position, and you'll be a coach one day. Just pay your dues.
but he and the thing about Flores is he already has a new job.
Oh, where's he coaching at?
He's with the Steelers.
Okay,
The
good.
Steelers
So
hired him, I think, to be a D. It's a prominent position on the staff, but yeah, he's a coach for the Steelers.
okay, good.
Albeit, mind you, he's still carrying on the lawsuit, but yeah, the Steelers hired him a while back.
Okay, good. Well, I wasn't keeping up with the story, but
Yeah,
I'm good to know that he got a position. But still, even then, it still doesn't look. I mean, when you have to go around and you're looking to get on somewhere. I mean, I guess it's going to work for him now. I mean, I guess next time you apply for a job, you gonna get it. Lest the NFL looks racist now. So, so I may have worked in his favor, but still, even then, man, this whole Kaepernick situation to me, I didn't like it when it first happened. I felt like it was overblown. I felt like he was riding a wave. I felt like he was taking credit for stuff and just putting himself in things and making himself a martyr. And now he's trying to renege on that. And it's just like, oh no, the hype is dead. Everybody's gone to their own whatevers. Let me go throw a football again. It's like, bro, you was around here, fist in the air, afro out, just pro everything.
yeah,
Black Panther coming out. They photoshopping him with, I mean, I know Black Panther came out afterwards, but still around I don't know what time, because
yeah.
they said his last game was the end of 2016. So
Right. Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
they splicing him with all kinds of stuff and just making him look with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Obama and Colin Kaepernick. And it's like, what did he do? He took a knee.
yeah,
He took a knee, and now he's up there with Martin Luther King and Obama. And so, yeah, man, social media ran with it, and I just was not a fan of it. I felt like it was overhyped, overblown. I felt like the people that were upset about it were out of pocket. I felt like the people that felt like there was some righteous thing going on. I mean, it is a noble thing to do, but outside of all right, every week we're going to take a knee, it's like, bro, it is really not that deep. And
yeah,
if you're feeling that powerful, to want to take a knee during the national anthem, hey man, there's 5 more days throughout the week where you're not, out there, tackling people like that. So go make a change like that. So you around here taking a knee while somebody's singing isn't doing anything. Oh, I'm bringing awareness. Well, who gives a, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So it was all elementary to me. It was new age civil rights stuff.
hmm
And the civil rights situations, they were what they were. I'm not disparaging ancestors or anything weird, but I wasn't a fan of stuff like sit-ins or anything like that where you're just voluntarily just going to get brutalized for no reason or nothing like that. And so the same thing goes with in marches and stuff, because what will marches do? And we've been marching since the civil rights movement, and we was marching for like 3 years ago. So we just march. That's all we do is march, and nothing happens. So this Kaepernick thing was just another piece of that stuff where we're just romanticizing nothing. And it's just like nothing comes out of this. You do know that, right? Oh, he's bringing awareness that cops are killing people. Yeah, we all saw it.
Yeah.
What are you bringing awareness to? So, oh no, he's not in the league. And so this whole thing of, like you said, like he was playing the whole card. I mean, even then, like, and so let me even tackle the football angle, because I tackled the social angle. So let me tackle the football angle. The football thing is, like you said, he hasn't been taking those hits. He hasn't been out there against guys with speed. And so his whole game was bobbing and weaving and running and throwing. Bro, you're not bobbing and weaving nothing right now. Your long strides are getting hawked down by defensive linemen now.
Yeah.
These guys are running 4.5s.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? So I get it. He sees Brady out there slinging it. I've been out there not taking blows, so I've got extra years on my body, and I can just sit in the pocket and sling it like Rodgers and Brady. And it's just like, bro, you're not Rodgers and Brady. No. You weren't Rodgers. You weren't even known for throwing. Just like how you said, that offense is Lamar Jackson's offense.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just running around.
Yeah.
And then found a gap, throw it to the open gap.
Yeah.
There's no offense to that. There's no skill to that. The whole Kaepernick thing was it was a horse and pony show to me. It was a trick. It was a one-trick pony. That's why Lamar needs to learn how to throw. And I just said it out loud.
Yes.
I just said, and it's just like, hey, bro, I get it. You got hella arm strength and all this other stuff, bro. Learn to throw the ball, bro. And if it's too late now, I mean, whatever, man. Like, I don't know how long running backs last, but you're just a glorified running back at this point. So you got to get the throwing down some point. So sidebar for Lamar. Mm-hmm. But same thing. It's the same thing with him where Kaepernick was doing when he was out there playing. I was not blown away by his arm. I mean, he can get it downfield, but I mean, he wasn't like ripping people apart.
No.
So my whole thing is like, hey man, I thought I could still hoop and stuff. I mean, he was actually in the NFL. So, but the whole thing is, he should go be backup, stay backup, get backup checks. Hopefully you're on the Super Bowl or playoff team. You get to have good tickets, basically, and you get to see everything in up close and be with the guys in the locker room. Ain't that good enough? You don't have to be a starter. What are you going to win, a Super Bowl?
Yeah.
It's like let's cut it out.
Yeah.
So, those guys are hating. Let that man live his dreams. Hey man, I'm all for people living out their dreams. Like I said, hey, I thought I could still hoop. I not go to the NBA, but hey man, I thought I could still go out there and bang on people at 30. At 35, I thought I could still go out there and bang on people. At 40, I'm gonna still think I'm gonna be out there at the YMCA banging on people. But at the end of the day, man, I just don't see it happening. If they do it, it'll be a sympathy thing, a publicity thing, where it makes whatever franchise look like they're inclusive now.
Yeah,
maybe the Generals or something like that.
Right.
And they just Commanders. Commanders. Yeah, maybe the Commanders. Maybe they'll sign him just to show that, hey man, we're open-minded now. That was the old regime. Now we've got Black Panthers as our starting quarterback. So, hey man, I don't know, but to me, this guy has been riding this social justice wave for a little too long. I'm not saying he don't do nothing. I'm not saying he don't give back. I just think he's hella commercial with it,
Yeah.
and I don't get down with that. So.
Yeah, I largely agree with a lot of that. One thing that Kaepernick did, Kaepernick started the trend in this country of trying to force corporations to care about social responsibility. He started a lot of that. The biggest
He
issue
literally started
he
that.
did. The biggest problem that I had with what Kaepernick did was the result. One of the results of what happened with his kneeling and all of that was the NFL, in my opinion, was being held responsible for addressing societal problems. And that never made sense. Like the NFL the way that the NFL is constructed is the same way that corporate America is constructed. It's the same way that it's the same way that socioeconomics is structured. The NFL is just a lens through which to observe these things happening in real time, but they are in no way, shape, or form the cause. And you know what I say is you don't fix a problem by addressing a symptom. You fix a problem by addressing what is causing the problem. The NFL is a symptom of societal inequality. It just gives you a lens through which to observe it. But what happened in lieu of what Kaepernick did was the media and society and us as a people, we all sort of started to hold the NFL's feet to the fire and say, hey, you guys need to fix racism. You guys need to solve the issue of racism, which is completely ridiculous. So now what we're saying is we want a for-profit billion-dollar industry to address social issues. What people need to understand is 99% of the time in the world of business, in the world of making money, social responsibility is completely counterintuitive to making money. And a very easy way to see this play out is look at the labor force. Look at the workforce in some of these places. If you go to Silicon Valley, the majority of the people who are out there making the money are white people. Does that mean Silicon Valley is being intentionally racist against non-white people? No. It simply means that the ecosystem of the socioeconomic structural makeup of this country is such that the people who have historically been able to position themselves to make money in those fields, in those careers, have been people who retain the lion's share of the generational wealth in this country, which has been white people. Now, the root of that might be in systemic racism, but the tech industry isn't causing that. The NFL isn't causing a lot of these racial issues. It is merely a byproduct of it. So I'm bringing all of this up to say, to sort of go at the NFL as if the NFL is the reason why racial inequality exists, to me, is not focusing on the actual issue. But what happened with Kaepernick was, hey, the NFL, you're big, you're one of the problems. You're racist, so you guys need to do what you need to do, what you can do in order to contribute to fixing the problem, because you're a part of the problem. And so, what do we get as a result of that? These, Black Lives Matter BS on the helmets and end racism in the field, which is all BS and it's all corporate grandstanding. None of it ever amounts to anything. And then people get mad at the NFL when Brian Flores gets fired, or they get mad at the NFL for perceived lack of progress when it comes to hiring practices. It's like, listen, if you want to address hiring practices, you need to address the fact that all the owners of the NFL are white people. This is an economics issue. It's not an NFL problem. The more black billionaires you get out here, the greater the likelihood that you can get a non-white person running one of these teams, which means the greater the likelihood that you can get more black people in executive positions and head coaching positions, because the people who own the teams won't be so culturally homogenized. But Kaepernick came in with his kneeling thing, and to his credit, I'm going to be fair, I don't think Kaepernick did this intentionally. Kaepernick was just trying to say, hey, this out here ain't right, and I'm trying to do what I can do as an individual to fix it. But what people and the media and what we as a culture and a society did was we took it and we attached corporate, we attached corporate interest with social responsibility. And those two things are completely counterintuitive. They don't run together. And that's why you don't see no progress when it comes to these sports leagues, because they're not the ones who should ultimately be responsible for fixing it. And that's what's so annoying about this stuff. And it gets on my nerves because just like we talked about last week with Cam Newton and what he said about women needing to be able to cook and stay quiet and how the media latches onto that as low-hanging fruit. The media does the same thing with these social issues. Low-hanging fruit. Brian Flores gets fired. Oh, the NFL's being racist and not doing its part to be progressive. Colin Kaepernick ain't in the league. Oh, the media is being racist and not doing its part to adhere to social responsibility. It's all ridiculous, and it's just words at this point, and it's an exercise in futility because we're not actually assessing the root. We're just blaming the billionaires, and we're blaming the sports leagues, and we're blaming the easiest targets to blame when the cause of it has nothing to do with them. They are just a byproduct of that. I can walk into any bank on Wall Street in New York City, and I can see the makeup of that as the same as the makeup of an NFL franchise. It's no different. But we're not blaming Wall Street the way that we blame the NFL. So please explain to me what the difference is. So that's the whole, that's why we don't get no progress with this stuff. And why Kaepernick can sit around and continually, Kaepernick is going to be able to play the blackballed racial inequality card into perpetuity. And the reason why is because the NFL is not responsible for any of this stuff.
He's better off just riding off in the sunset as they forever ban me, because it just looks better, bro. Instead of coming in and failing like that.
Yeah, he's going to be able to play that card into perpetuity because the NFL is never going to be able to fix what is an American problem, not an NFL problem. And then another thing with Kaepernick, and you kind of touched on this as well, and this is kind of why I roll my eyes at him. While he was out of the league, well, he's still out of the league, but while he was doing his documentaries on Netflix and working on all of this other stuff, and he was making his public appearances, he talked about the NFL being slavery, and he talked about the NFL being a slavery.
Yeah, that stuff.
So it's I'm confused. I don't know how you can say that something is tantamount to slavery, but still want to be a part of it.
That's what I'm saying.
Like. If I truly believe that something was slavery, I want to stay as far away as possible. I remember, I brought up the part-time, cook job that I had for many, many years. I used to go on and on talking about how working in that place was like working on a modern-day slave ship. Now, I quit that job. Do you know what I didn't do after I quit? Try to go back and get my job back. I didn't go back to go there to work again. Why? Because I believe it's a slave ship. And if I believe something's a slave ship, I don't want to be there. Why do I want to be an active participant on a slave ship? So you kind of look hypocritical in that sense. And he said this out of his mouth, that the NFL is a slave. If the NFL is slavery, why are you trying to work there? Why?
Exactly.
You look like you don't have the courage of your convictions when you are castigating an entire industry, equating it to slavery, but then saying you want to be a part of it. So you are wanting to be I, being the logical individual that I am, have no other recourse but to glean from that you want to be a slave, because you said personally the NFL is slavery. So you kind of look like an idiot in that regard. It's kind of Kyrie Irving-esque, but even Kyrie isn't this bad, because Kyrie ain't calling the NBA slavery. But, you kind of look like Kyrie Irving from the standpoint that Kyrie Irving wants to be an individual and dictate his own terms, play when he wants to play, take time off on account of his mental health and all of this other stuff, but then wants to demand that he receives all of his NFL salary. And it's like, bro, at a certain point, if you want to exercise some of your free will, you're going to have to understand that you're going to have to sacrifice some of what you receive in return for your services as a player.
Mhm.
And like to refuse to do that and to make it seem as though you're being defiant in that regard kind of makes you look like you're not really about that life that you preach, because you still want those checks. And with Kaepernick, if you want to call the league slavery, why are you still trying to play? Be an activist full time. Get your press conferences, go to City Hall, try to be a congressman, try to be a public official. Who, at this point, you have such a high Q rating in the Black community and in the marginalized community that if you wanted to run for public office, you could probably galvanize enough support that you can, make a play to be in, Congress or whatever. Go do that. Be somebody who can actually legislate some kind of change for real. But you're calling the league slavery and then still trying to be a player. Like, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. And it kind of just makes me say, I'm done with this guy. Enough already with this stuff. But again, it brings me back to one of my central points. He knows that every time he makes a public appearance or jumps on a podcast, First Take and Undisputed and all of these shows are going to run with it to continue to perpetuate the notion that he is actively being victimized by the system. And quite frankly, for me, it just doesn't wash. Not anymore. Well, it never did, but at this point, it really doesn't wash.
Well, if he just wants to play football, that I always was like, well, just go play arena football, or at the time I was like, play arena. Now we got other leagues trying to pop up, so USFL is going right now, bro. Play over there, you'll start immediately. If you just want to play the game now. Oh, I want to play the game at the highest level.
Right.
And it's like, all right, bro, well, then go to the CFL. Because one thing that he opened up by doing this is, again, like you said, it wasn't like a ban where it's like, oh, we banning you. It's just like, bro, this is a media storm. We don't need this. And so it's just bad for business.
Yeah.
And so you have all the woke people liking you, but woke people don't buy tickets.
They don't.
So we don't care about that. So that's one angle for the people that would say that, hey, he just would, or him just saying it's just for the love of the game. I just want to play for the love of the game. Well, bro, you know what I'm saying? You can still play at high levels places and just dominate there.
Yeah.
But that's that angle. But then you had also brought up a thing where you was talking about the corporations and them not, them hopping on the social justice stuff.
Yeah.
And you're right. I didn't correlate the two together, but if there was a chart, it was spiked when the Kaepernick thing happened.
And George Floyd. Yeah.
And the George Floyd thing happened.
Yeah.
And so because then the NBA is just, they toned it down, but it was absolutely disgusting.
It was unbearable.
And this comes from a black man, America.
Yeah.
It was absolutely disgusting. I could not stand it.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, look, man, I get it. Half the league, more than half the league's Negro. But why are we doing this? I really felt like, cornbread and halftime straw hats and stuff. I said, let's cut it out, man. I don't need all of this pandering. This pandering is disgusting. It makes me want to vomit.
Yeah, it was unbearable.
It's corporate pandering at that. So all of these commercials where people are moving in slow motion, doing this. Oh, and black people, why are we always dancing? Why are we not in the laboratory with lab coats?
Exactly, yeah, at NASA.
And stethoscopes.
Yeah.
We always dancing. Oh, black people, you're so artistic and beautiful. Get out of here. I'm over it. I'm over all of this woke, this diet woke. It is absolutely gut-wrenching.
Yeah.
And this guy, he was diet woke spokesperson. He was like, hey, right here, y'all. Y'all want some of this social media, darling? I was all through this circle. I was go my mission back then, bro, as a social media guy, was to all of this commercial woke that was going around. My job was to help level it to a more reasonable thing. But it was so much coming from every angle. I just couldn't. I mean, I was one man.
Yeah.
And so I was like, hey, there's others. But, it was just me and a handful of other people, man, that were see it that for the commercialness that it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the commercialness just in waves is just sucking people in. And so, of course, Black Lives Matter. Of course, blah, 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 blah. Of course, yeah. And it's like, man, nah. And so we need to do this for awareness because racism is so prevalent. And it's just like, look, I'm over that too. And one it was some years ago, bro. I was a cab driver picking up freshmen. And I had accent. It was a black boy and a white boy. They were friends. They went to high school together, and they was going to college together. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I had asked them something, or the topic of race came up for whatever reason. And then they both said, bro, we don't care about that stuff, man. Mm-hmm. And it was such a genuine, bro, we don't care. Like, honestly, like, we've been friends for a while. And we keep hearing all of this stuff around us, but we don't see it in each other or none of that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I've never heard anybody really say that. When I was a young person, I didn't know what race and all of that stuff was. And I'm cool with everybody. Everybody cool with me and everything's a blast, And then all of a sudden I hear the term prejudice. Oh, that person's prejudiced. I was like, what's prejudice? Oh, they don't like you because of this or that. And oh, what? And now I'm thinking the world don't like me because I'm this and that and that. And now I only associate with, the conditioning. Mm-hmm. And then so these young people, they had an opportunity they have opportunities. Young people have the opportunity to look at older people and go, hey, that's not productive. That actually looks counterproductive and stupid. You guys are wasting a lot of energy being mad about all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the younger generation has this nonchalant energy when it comes to certain things. But what the commercial woke has done is it's channeling that energy towards this machine type cookie cutter elementary levels of consciousness. And so these kids that are feeling like, hey, man, racism's bad. And it's like, I know. And this is the way. And this is like, hey, everything sunshines and rainbows over here and everything's doing whatever. And it's just like, nah, man, we don't need all of this corporate stuff in order to get rid of these problems. We just need to stop promoting. The same corporations promote the problems. Mm-hmm. So the same corporations, not literally, a diet Coke company or whatever, they're not the ones out there promoting this stuff. But if you talk about the chain and what capitalism does, and you talk about what marketing does, what movies do, with television, back in the day with newspaper, all forms of propaganda to promote more and more race baiting stuff. And everything you see on social media now is race, black, racism. And so who's promoting that? The same corporations that's sitting here saying that racism needs to go away. So what's going on here? So they're telling they're brainwashing, I believe. Like there's a brainwashing and conditioning going on, helping the beast stay alive. Mm-hmm. But I think genuinely people hand to hand really want to see it go away, but they're constantly reminded by the media, corporations, and everything else. And I'm not even going to get into like what they're trying to do, all this uproar that they're doing with the school system and stuff. First of all, I'm not even going to say the name of it, and first of all, as if the school system cares about what we learn. And now they're so fixated on trying to make people hate each other for race. Because those are the kids that are not really caring about race. Those are the ones with mixed parents. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones with all kinds of stuff. And y'all trying to do all this extra stuff, trying to cause dissension. Why y'all introducing this instead of coding? Why y'all introducing this instead of workshops and cooking and stuff like that? This is madness. So this is another way just to divide the people. And so for people like Kaepernick, who was sitting there sipping the diet woke in front of everybody in America, saying, "Hey, yeah, this is what consciousness is." No, it's not. It's what dissension is.
Yeah.
And it's what counterproductivity does.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that we got out of that was a whole bunch of paintings, a whole bunch of videos and memes.
Yeah.
But we got nothing hand-to-hand practical done out of that.
Right. I agree, man. I agree with a lot of that. Yeah, we took down statues and we got rid of Aunt Jemima. So if that makes you feel good about yourself, then good job. Yeah, there's no more Aunt Jemima syrup. It's not like the paper milling company or something.
Yeah, it's something wild.
Yeah, like the Land O'Lakes butter, the Indians gone, and now it's just Land O'Lakes butter or whatever.
The Native Americans.
That's what you get. But hey, if that symbolism makes you feel better about the world, then have at it. But
that Land O'Lakes. No, I'm about to say that Land O'Lakes. She was pretty. That was a pretty picture.
And they just got rid of it because it's racist. But I mean, like if these things make you feel good about the state of the world, then fine. But trust you me, it's not assessing the root at all.
Yeah, that's stopping racism.
And we use these people to be champions for these movements, and people like Colin Kaepernick. Eventually they just serve as a conduit for people's frustrations. And so you have so many people who are willing to attach themselves to the ideal of Colin Kaepernick because they are unhappy and abjectly miserable with the trajectory that their lives have gone in. And they believe that they are victims of a system. And so, they can use Colin Kaepernick as a conduit with which to express their frustrations, when really they can eradicate all of their frustrations by focusing and honing on something that can remove them from their environment. But, to speak to your point about divisions, I feel like we're kind of repeating each other, but it's true. Like the social media world and the media, these corporate advertisers, they do an effective job of making you believe that you're in the situation that you're in, not because you don't have the power to remove yourself from that, but because there's a boot on your neck that you can't get from up under. And you believe it and you internalize it and you say, man, I'm mad. Now you're mad at the world and you're trigger happy. And you look at someone like Colin Kaepernick, whom you can use as a conduit to sort of vent. But at the end of the day, all of that venting is just going to amount to you going back to that same situation that you're stuck in, that you hate. And you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're still going to be there. And, the savior, these corporations aren't going to come for you. It is what it is. It's frustrating. It is. And him, I'm just ready for him to go away. I kind of think that he's a bit of a hypocrite. Like I said, if the NFL is truly a slave ship, why are you trying to play? It doesn't make sense. It kind of makes it seem as though you're trying to be a slave. And I'm not trying to invoke that. I'm using his own words because he called the NFL a slave ship. So a lot of this stuff to me, it's counterintuitive. It's counterproductive. It does not get to anything whatsoever. And, it provides for content, but nothing more than that. So
T.O.'s playing arena football
right.
now.
T.O.'s at USFL. Yeah. So like go play at USFL. Yeah, go do that. You know what I'm saying? Kaepernick, go do what T.O.'s doing. I mean, I don't know, man.
Yeah, bro, but damn. Jeez, with this stuff, man. Like,
it's annoying. It really is. It's annoying.
If he just came in on the humble, not talking all this rah-rah, he's still talking the rah-rah. Oh yeah, man, like just stop. Like,
yeah, I just think at this point he has to lean into it because he has no other choice. I firmly believe that he did not foresee. I think that if you can go to him,
totally,
and say, "Hey, bro, like if you could sit him down in the room with no one around and ask him an honest question, If you can go back, would you do this shit differently? He'd be like, hell yeah. Because he didn't think that this was going to result in this. He didn't. Like, we could all agree that racial inequality was wrong, but from a strategic standpoint, to sort of do it in the way that you did it couldn't have been a more wrong and counterproductive approach. It just couldn't. Honestly, it just couldn't have been. So it is what it is. And I think he sees that now, but he'll never admit that because he has to die on a sword.
Hopefully it's not a money thing for him. I don't think it is. I think he kind of just wants to play football kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. If that's his itch, go scratch it somewhere else.
Right.
But if it is a money thing, bro, you so plugged in. You're a walking brand. There's plenty of ways to make money instead of subjugating yourself to slavery.
Yeah. Even and saying that you don't like slavery at the same time. All right, so next up we're gonna move on. Next topic that we're gonna talk about is a snippet from one of the latest episodes of Kevin Samuel's show. We've talked about the notion of high value man and women and their ideas of what they think they deserve when it comes to men and all of this kind of stuff. So look at this female and then listen to the things that she is saying. And then we'll play this clip and then talk about it on the back end.
Okay, if you say he's high value, to me, when I talk about high value, it's not just money. It's over a period of time. It's what you do. It's also men of value must recognize you as a peer or a potential peer. You got to have a network of high value men and others, and you must be useful to others in a group. So you judge a man not just on his money, by his network, by other men who say, yeah, that's a man of value. He's a mover or shaker. Yeah, okay, man, but these men don't settle. They don't settle. They don't get women who are. There are men on YouTube right now saying, I don't know what I'm talking about being high value. But here's one thing that they do agree with me on. They don't take a woman with children. They don't. I've had men who vehemently disagree with me on a lot of things. They don't listen to me, but unanimously, we don't take another man's children because that's not even in their mindset. They don't. So you ladies can call it what you want, and I'm thinking, how long have y'all been dating?
2 weeks now.
Oh man! So there you go. The context for that is this woman here. First of all, look at her. Number one, it is what it is. I don't particularly. She's not attractive and she's overweight. So two things right off the bat. You're not really that cute and you're overweight. I'll say it. If you don't want to say it, I'll say it. So I just did it. I don't care. So she's not cute and she's overweight. On top of being not cute and overweight, she's 37 years old and has 2 children. And what she was suggesting is that despite all of those things, that she should be and deserves to be with a high value man. High value. Now there was a disconnect between what she perceives to be high value and what Samuels has always explained as high value, because Samuels is very specific. The network, the period of time over a period of years, and other men who are peers who would vouch for you for being high value, so on and so forth. She was just thinking about the money. And so what she was saying was, yeah, I should be with a high value man. I deserve to be with a high value man. I'm actually with the guy who I would consider to be high value because he has businesses and houses and cars and all of this kind of stuff. And I think she was saying that he owns a car dealership or something like that. Mm-hmm. And this guy is 51 years old and she's with him. And then Samuels was like, okay, well, that doesn't really add up because most high value men wouldn't go for women who have the hangups that you have. But I'll take your word for it. How long have y'all been dating? She said we've been dating for 2 weeks. And that's what made him kind of flip off, because y'all ain't been dating if it's only been 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what went on there. So we've touched on this subject matter on this channel in previous videos. And so this gives us another example with which to kind of look at the current landscape and how some women perceive themselves when it comes to their viability in the dating market. So I'll just set it up right there and leave it there. You saw her, kind of seemed trepidatious in terms of labeling her. I didn't. I felt very comfortable saying that she doesn't really look that good, and on top of that, she's not in shape. What are your initial thoughts on this whole dynamic, or the clip, the situation, whatever?
I mean, honestly, bro, I feel as though let's address the looks right now. So let's address the look. I feel as though, as far as looks are concerned, she's below average to me. All right, so she's below average. For all my dark skinned sisters out there,
Stop, no,
all my dark skinned sisters. Hold on, man. Because I gotta do it, bro. For my psyche. It's nothing about none of that. All right, she just doesn't fit the bill. All right. As far as the weight goes, I don't mind. The weight's not a problem. It's just her face is just like not it for me. So as far as her being out here trying to look for somebody that, his whole argument with her was basically like, you're average at best. So you don't need a high value man. You need to find where you're at. And that's an average guy. And she was like, no, I don't need to settle. And he was basically trying to get to her that, well, a high value man would be settling if he dealt with you. So yeah, they did have different definitions of high value, but even that woman's definition of high value and that story that she was telling about that dude she was dealing with, I mean, yeah, like you said, the 2 weeks, they're not even dating. I wouldn't even say that guy's going to be around for very long. So she's just probably something for the weekend type of deal. So I just say that for women like her, she's just the quintessential, the embodiment, the personification of this energy that's floating around right now, and the level of delusionalness, if that's a word, that these women are saying whenever they're on his show is mind blowing. And so this woman here, just another example of how they all feel like they deserve the world. And that's great. Vaginas are great. Women are awesome, but I'm great. Penises are awesome, and and men are awesome. So why do I have to give you the world? Like, I'm confused here. So there's definitely been a disconnect, man. I don't know what handbook all these women are pulling from. It's like they have these meetings, these secret meetings, where they're pulling all the same rhetoric out. Man, it was a TikTok, bro. I gotta find it. It was a TikTok where it was a woman. She was basically saying that, another black woman, separate from that one we had covered before, where she worked with black women. I think it was like a group meeting, a seminar type of thing. And then they started talking about submission. And those black women got the flipping out in there. They started losing it. I ain't nobody's slave. I ain't working for nobody. Rah, 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 rah. And so it's the same level of, I don't know where this is coming from. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I do, but at the same time, they're all speaking it. And so they all feel like being quote unquote, being submissive is a sin, and women shouldn't do it. It's akin to slavery. All right. And so all of this rhetoric that's going around that women have been using, to me, which is counterproductive for them, it has them in this position right now where this woman is 37 with 2 kids and still dating. And this is the reality of a lot of our women, and I just feel like it's going to continue to grow. So that's my initial reaction of all of this, I would say.
First of all, I'm disappointed in you.
Oh, come
that
on,
you
man.
felt the need to qualify yourself by bringing in the skin pigmentation card. Um, at no point did I even suggest, and I know you weren't saying that I was, I'm just saying that at no point was I suggesting that her skin tone had anything to do with her level of desirability or lack thereof. And I hate it. I hate it. That's something that really gets my blood boiling. We did a video talking about colorism a few videos back. I encourage everybody to check that video out when we was talking about Tandy Newton. I hate it when people do that because what you're doing is you're rationalizing undesired results. And that's what the colorism card mostly does. It is a rationalization for undesired results. So
I was rationalizing.
no, you weren't doing it. I'm saying when people play okay, so let me be clear. Because you brought up the skin tone thing in order to qualify yourself. I didn't think you needed to do that. It was unnecessary, but I'm not really bothered by it. But what does bother me is when women invoke colorism and their skin complexion in order to rationalize why things didn't go their way. So in other words, it had nothing to do with the fact that you're out of shape, you're overweight, and that you have multiple children out of wedlock. It had nothing to do with any of that you don't work on maximizing what you bring to the table from a substance standpoint or from an appearance standpoint. So your undesired results have nothing to do with any of that and have everything to do with the fact that you're being ostracized because you're dark skinned. That's what I'm talking about. I can't stand when people do that. It pisses me off and it's annoying. But that's all that stuff is to me, is a rationalization for undesired results. Now, you made a point about the weight not being an issue. I'll take your word for it. However, I would suggest to you that were you truly a high value man, your options would be such that you would eventually evolve to a standpoint where you would be discerning when it comes to weight. Now, that's my opinion. Whether I'm right or wrong, who knows? You're not in that position, so you can say that that's not true, but we won't see that until you become somebody who's in that tier. That's when you can really be able to say what you will and will not do and tolerate. And I think that's a human being thing. That's not a man, woman, whatever. That's humanity. We don't know how we will respond in certain types of environments until we get there. So at the point in which you become a high value man, I would like to revisit your stance on weight not being an issue, because we won't know what your options will be. And so I'll just put that in a drawer and I'll set that to the side. So now, just addressing this whole thing in just kind of the way that I see it, I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question. Who do you think is most responsible for this woman's ideology, men or women?
Women.
Okay. I think men are mostly responsible for her ideology. If you ask me, I think the progenation of her ideology and the ideology of women like that is her coming up in environments where she has been conditioned over the course of many, many, many years to believe that she is a prime dating option, because the men who have been throwing her those signals have been men who do not care to uphold certain preferences and standards. Now we can get into the minutia of the differences culturally and racially when it comes to this stuff. I do believe that race does play a factor in this type of dynamic, from the standpoint that for the longest time in previous generations, Black men have been beholden to Black women. And Black men have been, what's the word? I've used the word. Black men have been dominionized by Black women to exclusively choose from the crop of Black women and not consider other options, because there's this idea that as a Black man, you have a responsibility to choose from Black women and Black women only. So after after so many years of that conditioning being firmly entrenched in the ideology of Black people collectively, what you have as a result is women who say, I don't necessarily have to maintain any sort of awareness for where I am when it comes to the dating pecking order or the hierarchy, because a high value Black man specifically is going to choose me no matter what, because he has a responsibility to do so. Now, is she overtly thinking that? No, but do I think that that plays a part in how she goes about operating in the world subconsciously? Absolutely. And so what we have is a lot of women out here saying what I have or don't have is irrelevant. The mandate is that I deserve that man because it's my birthright. And I think that that mandate is something that was established by Black men initially. We created this situation because for decades we were basically saying, it doesn't really matter what you do or don't do, have or don't have. It's my obligation and responsibility to choose you. Now we're starting to come from up under that because we are slowly, very slowly, it's at a snail's pace, but we're still getting to a point where Black men are feeling more comfortable and confident with exercising all of their options. But I think for the most part, we are still living in a world where that is not the norm. That's the exception. And the norm is we are going to choose what we have been conditioned to believe we have to choose from. And when a person believes that they are not going to have to fight and compete for their options, they get lazy and they take on baggage and they take on burden and they take on inefficiencies and inadequacies, because in their minds, their inefficiencies and inadequacies are not going to hinder them from finding what they want and from obtaining what they seek. And so I think that this chick embodies all of this. To look the way that she looks, and you know, she's aware of her shortcomings, because earlier in that clip she talked about how she can get herself in better shape and saying that at that point I'll be good to go, all I got to do is get in better shape. And you know, Samuels was like, okay, well, yeah, that's a part of it, but it's a little more than that. But she's aware of that, but despite being aware of it, she still nevertheless is like, my inadequacies are not going to be enough to stop me from believing that high value men is the lane in which I am supposed to be operating in. So let me be clear. This isn't just a racial thing. This is a cultural modern dating thing. There are women in all groups and subgroups, in my opinion. And some men do this too, but the onus and the responsibility is more so on men than women to be everything that we need to be in order to be able to best position ourselves to get the attention of the types of mates that we want. The onus and responsibility is more on men to be able to do that than women. Therefore, this is mostly tantamount to what men have to do. But across the board, this isn't just a racial thing. It's a modern dating thing where, you know, a lot of women, because of dynamics like this, kind of perceive their inadequacies as not really much of an obstacle when it comes to being best positioned to get what you want. And quite frankly, I won't stand for it. I'm not here for it. I'll be the champion for the man who upholds standards and preferences and says, no, this is not okay. Now, again, preferences and standards is fluid, so we all differ in that regard. My standards and preferences is different than the next guy. But there should be a baseline. I'm a champion for the baseline. I will preach the baseline. And the more of us who continue to abide by the baseline, the less of these types of delusional women who think that they deserve the right to have access to high value men are going to exist in society. And dare I say it, the world will be a better place as a result of that.
So these women, so these less desirable women want high value men because like men are pumping their heads up is what you're getting at basically? Or
not only are they pumping their heads up, they are behaving in a way that leads them to believe that they are operating on the same playing field as the types of women who high value men would and should actually be going for. Yes.
I got you. I think more or less it's more like it's going to the league for them, so they all want to do it. So I don't think it's a if they get a high value man. First of all, they wanted a high value man before the term high value man was even coined, and so they wanted that because that was the lottery ticket that was going to the league. Every woman wants to go to the league. And so every woman wants to strike it rich with a handsome man who can pay for every goddamn thing or fund their dreams or allow them to live their dreams or whatever these women are into nowadays. So, but nevertheless, the whole thing is that money is has always been a big thing involved in that, or status or something that could afford something. you know. So I feel like all women always they all want to go to the league. They all want to get married for the most part. For the ones that's out here screaming about they want a husband, so they want to get married. And so when they want to get married, they also want to get married with somebody that can take care of every goddamn thing. Why not? So only thing I have to do is sexualize myself, and then yeah, I'll find my high value man, and that's what they're thinking. And so now, what makes them think that they can get somebody? So Kevin Samuels has qualified his definition of high value. I don't know why his fans listen to everything that he says because he's not talking about you. He dunks on average people all the time. Well, I aspire to be a high value man. Yeah, and these women aspire to get a high value man. So y'all in the same bucket. So these same women that y'all sliding on and dunking on every day, these are women that's in your dating pool. So it's a lot. It's a lot. So that large percentage of people out there living in delusionalville themselves.
Hmm.
They need to get over themselves too, because what's ended up happening is there's these guys out here running around high value, high value, high value, and bro, you don't even make 50K.
Yeah.
So what do you know what I'm saying? You work at Checkers. You hollering high value to some whatever girl because she work at the flea market. It's like, bro, these aren't scalable, bro. Like they don't work the same way down here. You're playing a whole different game, and so you can't talk to her like you run the show because you don't. And of course, she's gonna practice hypergamy. She looks good. She actually has currency. You don't have any currency. Money. Her currency is her looks. She's rich as hell, even though she, you know what I'm saying, don't have the same type of job as you do. So she's got a lot more. And so she can actually bag a rapper or at least get enough, to be in his section for the weekend or whatever. I don't know how they do their thing, but at least they got their chance to sleep with a high value man. So it's all kinds of shenanigery going on. I think there's delusional people on both sides. And so as far as how I see, I think what's going on here is it's a culmination of because America is just a melting pot of corporations and a melting pot of sales, and people they have been selling us false relationships on everything we can imagine, from TV shows to movies and everything else. And so we can't neglect that level of conditioning that goes into the minds of these people. Hell, people still think Uncle Phil is the closest thing I had to a dad. That's a sad thing to say, bro.
Carl Winslow.
Yeah, Carl Winslow. That's the closest thing I had to a dad, man. That's sad, man. That's very unfortunate, but that's a lot of people's story. But even then, bro, even if you didn't have your own father, it's like he was on TV, dog. That's fake. You know what I'm saying? Real dads got flaws, and not the TV flaws. I'm talking about real flaws.
Yeah.
And you still have to love him through all of that, and you got to love your peoples through all of that. And so life is real, man. This is extreme stuff out here. And so I say all that stuff to say is that these modern men and women are all not all, many of them are experiencing trauma. They were raised by people who experienced trauma. So they're just playing out the trauma they were raised in. And so this girl here, her level of being delusional spans back to her mama, and then maybe her mama. So this whole chain reaction is only getting worse because there's the level of current conditioning that's going on as well, like I said, through social media and all other forms of stuff. So there aren't anything preaching any structural sound forms of raising children, raising families. Everything's open, wide open. Everything. Hell, I saw a picture of Wade's son making out with his, I guess, his boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, we on that page now.
Yeah.
So to hell with whatever, man. Just kids kissing is okay to be just putting all over the internet.
Yeah.
And so this romantic kissing. So this is where we're at. So layer by layer is getting broken down. Layer by layer is getting broken down. And who's doing this? But layer by layer is getting broken down. And so we're going to see more and more delusional women is what I'm getting at. And we're going to see more and more delusional men, because we're going to see men who are struggling to get women their damn selves. It's so stupid what's going on right now. And men are struggling to get women their damn selves. So they're in this position where they hate women. They just online hating on women. I bet there was dudes in that. I mean, I got some chuckles out of that. I laughed. But I bet there was some dudes in that Samuel section, absolutely spoon and fork, eating it up that he's just dunking on this woman. And it's just like, I'm not wearing no cape, or he's simping. It's like, hey, look, man, people are human and people got bad conditioning. That one, I feel sorry for her. Jesus felt sorry for people. Hey, man, they don't know what they're doing right now. And I feel sorry for people who live a life like that and being delusional like that. She average, all she deserves is average, because that's what she gonna get. And that's what he said. That's what you can afford. This life is about what you can afford. And unfortunately, the way that people, the price that people put on looks and stuff like that, she's cast out. So I don't put all that much stuff on looks. I really don't. She's not my kind of looker. But I don't put so much stuff on looks. That's why the weight isn't really an issue all the way. She wasn't obese. Now, obese, I can't,
Well, that's a whole level.
Yeah, but if you're overweight is manageable. But if you're obese, I can't deal with that. So that's why I said the weight is not an issue, because the whole thing is that I'm not a person. That's why I told you last episode. I told you 10s. I don't want 10s. It's what are you willing to pay for? I'm willing to pay for humble, and I want a humble woman. And if I got a bag, if I'm a high value man, I still want a humble woman. And I don't want a woman that's out here that's hollering that I deserve, I got him because I deserve him, or none of that weird stuff. I want a woman that's happy to be there, and all that good jive. So all of this stuff that people are doing right now, I feel like they need to switch up, get out of their delusion, see where they're at, be honest with where they're at. Hell, I'm honest where I'm at. And so wherever I be catching the type of fish I be catching, it's like, damn, this is where I'm at. That's cool. And that's fine. And then sometimes it upgrades and it's like, yeah, I'm in a new bracket and I'm in a new level. So it is what it is. I'm comfortable where I'm at. And I think everybody else just needs to be comfortable where they're at. I know Greater said, easier said than done, but
yeah.
But yeah, that's my take on that.
It's definitely easier said than done. And yes, well, there's not much meat on this bone outside of that, but it's just, a lot of, we have, our culture is basically living through the internet. So yeah, you talk about the TV dad syndrome, where people felt like they were raised by Uncle Phil and Carl Winslow. Men too. Well, yeah, we both do it. We all do it. People in general. We formulate our perceptions of standards and all of this kind of stuff. Like, we formulate a lot of our relationship identity based upon the messaging that we expose ourselves to, primarily on social media. But basically on the internet. The more YouTube videos you watch, talking about top 10 ways to get this kind of girl, or the more, podcasts you listen to where it's like, do these things in order to meet the kind of man you want to meet. The more you're looking at these kinds of posts, the more this kind of stuff is showing up on your feed. The more you're exposed to a lot of this, the more distant from reality you'll become. And I call a spade a spade. And in the modern and hypergamy is something that has always existed. And to the victor goes the spoils. Life is inherently unfair. Most men who are in the position of the men that she claims to want are men who would not necessarily be on the lookout for her. So it would benefit her to maintain proper perspective. But it's hard to maintain proper perspective when your perspective is formulated based upon false narratives. And the internet and social media is nothing but false narratives. So it is what it is. I feel bad. My generation is kind of ended in it bad too. But the generations after ours are worse off. I feel bad for these Gen Zers because it's like they are just beholden to these messages that are the multiverse. It's not real life. You're formulating your sense of self and your perception of the way that the world works based upon false narratives, ideals that are not actually reflective of the way human beings operate. So it is what it is. She's a byproduct of that. I agree with you. I do feel bad for her, but for slightly different reasons. I feel bad for her, not necessarily because she knows not what she does, but because I feel as though even if she did know what she was doing, she would still be behaving the same way, because I think in her mind she feels as though there's nothing inadequate about her approach to life.
But that's her not knowing what she's doing.
Yeah,
if she knew
what
she was doing, she would have a man.
Correct. And that's the question that I was going to pose to you is, you're saying, kind of, some of the ways that she was going about doing things. But, I was going to say, okay, when you're 37 and you have 2 kids and you still think that you're going to be able to operate in that world where you can get that kind of guy, no, you have at that point, you truly believe that that's where you belong. Delusional as it may be, that's your belief. That is your belief. There's no capping going on there. She really thinks that about herself. And there's an entire legion of those types of people on both sides, because I agree with you. Men do the same thing, and it's sad because we as men are supposed to be the ones who are leading the charge when it comes to the acquisition and the maintenance of functional relationships, but we're fumbling the bag in that regard as well. But yeah, we're all doing it all the way around. You know me, man. I believe in perspective and accountability. So I'm going to take every chance that I get to point out when there is an absence of said perspective and accountability. And this is one of those instances. I think people need to spend less time on YouTube and Spotify and Instagram, but I'm not going to beat that dead horse. I've said that a zillion times, and I'll continue to say it because I believe it's true, but I'm not going to beat myself up over it. It just is what it is. But, that's pretty much all I had to say. I thought that video was interesting because it was egregious. I kind of felt like the stuff that she was saying was egregious, but nevertheless, it is the world that we live in. So
a lot of people got it, and so she and that's what I'm saying. It's like she's just a reflection of what's going on out here. But there's a lot of people that are under that spell, and so men and women, and so for the women, they choose to go on a platform that's meant to highlight and dog it out.
Yeah.
And so
that makes sense.
And so that woman volunteered for that.
Yeah.
So Samuels did what he does, and now she done gone viral. And so yeah, so that's just what it is. but I feel sorry for her. That's why I was just saying I feel sorry for her because she lives that life of not being happy, and she's the one driving herself to non-happyville.
Yeah.
And that's the part that's sad. And
Yeah.
so I feel sorry for anybody that's doing that to themselves.
Yeah.
And so, but a lot of our people are hurt, and that woman there, she wouldn't even let Samuel speak at times. She always wanted to interrupt and stuff, and she's lacking humility, and that's what I'm talking about, lacking cooperation. And so she's not going to find a man acting like that, and a high value one won't tolerate that. You know what I'm saying? And so, because at that point, you know, you can't deal with dissension in your own home, and that type of energy, it looks for it. So again, I feel sorry for her for having that going on in her life.
Yeah.
So it just is what it is. Hey, you don't reach that age with those kids and single, without working on it.
Right. Yeah.
So she definitely worked on it, and she reached her goal.
Yeah, she did. It's weird too. Like, it's kind of like the topic we just did. Like, you know, Kaepernick he has insisted that the NFL is tantamount to modern day slavery, yet he's still trying to be a player. And, you know, these women who go on Kevin Samuel's show, I also find that to be strange. Like, no one is making them do this. They're taking it upon themselves to call in. And they almost always don't measure up, yet they call in anyway. I don't get it.
It's the level of first of all, people do anything. People will go on Jerry Springer.
There has to be some degree of it that's just about getting attention. Period.
Yeah, people will go on Jerry Springer just to embarrass their whole family.
Yeah,
you know. So you never know what people got going on. So if she can get clicks, views, and stuff like that, maybe a high value man to see me defending myself against Kevin Samuel.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, you think he want to marry you after fussing at Kevin Samuels?"
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
For it. But that was good, man. Those are two good topics, man. Appreciate everybody for checking out this video. If you're watching this video on the YouTube, please hit the like button. I certainly appreciate it. It's free. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel so you can get all those notifications. Check out the Conscious Approach website, consciousapproach.com, full content library. You can also follow Conscious Approach on Instagram at ConApproach, ConApproach. You can also follow me on Instagram at JVWins, JVWINS. Wherever you're watching this video, share the video, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, comment on the video. I certainly appreciate it. And as always, please continue to support logical content.
Yep. And the name is Dogon SS. You can find me on Instagram at Dogon_SS and on YouTube at Dogon SS. Like and subscribe over there. I'm also on DraftKings at Dogon_SS or any other major social media platform at Dogon_SS. So go ahead and follow and all that good jazz. And if you're following on anything outside of Instagram, I'm following back. I'll follow back on anything outside of Instagram. You know, it's Instagram politics. But if you know what I'm saying, if you got something we can network with, then of course I'll follow back.
Yeah, for sure.
And all that good jazz. But as I always say, man, keep it calm, keep it player, man, keep it chill, man. Keep it even kill. Don't be too high, don't be too low. Don't let nobody get up under your skin, man. It ain't worth it. Don't let these females try to get you out of pocket, try to drive your emotions up, or none of that stuff, man. Keep it calm and keep it playing, man. Feel sorry for those who have to try to bring misery in your life. You know, forgive them for they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Or they know not what they do.
There you go. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, man, Dogon signing out, man.
Yeah. On that note, man, we have nothing left to say. Peace.